This is an extract from A Useful Guide to Hypnosis, published by Pansophics. Commands and embedded commands. Commands and embedded commands are one of the building blocks of good hypnosis. They are also one of the building blocks of influence, communication, and all those things of this sort of ilk. So it's a subject whether you have a mild interest in hypnosis or a big interest in hypnosis is well worth your time spending a good amount of time on to get and improve your skills with. It's a very simple concept, and it starts off with the idea that if you want somebody to do something, express what you want them to do very simply. And the real challenge that I find most people have with embedded commands is not about working out the clever way they can deliver them, but in working out what they want other people to do. So the first rule in being good at delivering embedded commands is working out what commands you want your client to do. And I would strongly suggest that you want to start off with things that are in the client's interest, not in your interest. If you come up with things that are purely in your own selfish interest, they may work, but you are ceding. But if they're not interested they're not in the interest of your client, you are ceding all sorts of results which won't do you any good in the end. So the first consideration in learning about embedded commands is deciding categorically what would be useful for your client to do. And then maybe seeding some things within that where there are some ideas which will be useful for both your client and for yourself. So I'm starting with some very simple embedded commands, and I'm assuming that they are ones that are useful for most people, but there again, I wouldn't actually use them with a client unless I thought there was a reason to. But I'm going to take 4. Soften. Somebody needs to relax. I'm giving them a very simple command or suggestion to soften. Feel passionate. It's useful for some people to feel passionate, so feel passionate. Glisten inside. Generally, it's good for people to feel good. So glisten inside is a suggestion, a command to get people to glisten inside. And I'm throwing one in for me, but I still believe it will be useful to anybody that's interested in the subject by our useful guide. So the concept is, if you want somebody to do something, let them know what you want them to do in the simplest language possible. And that is a command. And when you're giving a command, it's best to use something called command tone down. So at the end of the sentence, you tend to go down and you do not go up, because if you go up, it becomes a question. And if it's a question, your client's unconscious immediately assumes that it's a question, not something that you have to take action. If you say it as a command, the way that we work as human beings, your client will tend to assume it's a command and may actually do it before they've thought about what they're doing. Something else to consider about this, if I say something like glisten inside, to make sense of the words, your client actually has to work out what glisten inside means, and to make sense of it, they will get a touch of the feeling. Therefore, by saying things like soften, feel passionate, glisten inside, buy this ebook, to make sense of what I'm saying, your client has to develop some sort of representation of the words. So in some ways, they're already getting some experience of the action or the feeling that I'm suggesting to them. So that's basically a command. Decide what you want your client to do and choose almost the minimum amount of words to express what it is. And sometimes the shorter and the more direct your communication is, the more effective it becomes, the more effective it is. So moving on from that, what is an embedded command? Well, an embedded command is where you still say the word as a command, soften, feel passionate, glisten inside, buy this ebook. You still say the same command, but you add some words around it. And what actually happens is in adding the words around it, consciously we have more words to interpret. Therefore, the message is a little bit more complicated. And therefore, we spend more time working about what it might mean. However, if we still vocally, using our voice, highlight the command as a command, unconsciously, the unconscious mind still says command and tends to do it while the unconscious mind is still thinking about it. So it's a way of communicating to somebody's unconscious in a way that their unconscious understands it. Their conscious mind tends to understand it, but in a way understands it's too late because the suggestion has already gone in. I am going to go back to what I said right at the beginning. My own personal view, it's a mistake to use this in anything that is not useful to your client, because you are beginning to use quite powerful influence techniques. And if you do it in such a way that it makes or causes the person that you're communicating with to do something that isn't in their interests, they will tend to get their own back at you. So I would suggest that is not a route worth going down. Let me get back. What sort of words can I use to go at the beginning or the end of a command? Well, there's a whole heap of them, and there's a lot of them in the ebook. But some examples are, remembering I'm using the commands soften, feel passionate, glisten inside, buy this ebook. And they can be very simple. It's just giving the person more consciously more things to think about. When you soften, you'll realize that you can feel really good. You can feel passionate and really enjoy those emotions. When you glisten inside, you connect to all those unconscious processes that are already working in your favor. You can buy this ebook, and you'll find it much easier to learn and relearn all the things that we're talking about. So basically, I'm taking the command and I'm putting some words in each side of them to make the sentence slightly more complicated. So in essence, but the structure is unconsciously the command will still go in. You can enjoy softening and you'll get the benefits later because your health will increase. You can feel passionate because when you're passionate, you'll find that you have the motivation to do all those things that you need to do to get the results you want. Just glisten inside and enjoy the moment and begin to enjoy the effect that you have on others. Just buy this ebook. That's the way to speed up your development of learning all this stuff. So that's the basics of embedded commands. But as I said before, the starting point is decide what you want your client to do that's in their interest and work out the simplest way of saying it to them. Thank you. This is NLP trainer and business coach Michael Beale, thanking you very much for listening and reminding you that what you have just heard is an extract from A Useful Guide to Hypnosis, published by Pansophics. Pansopphix. Thank you.